Good morning everybody, thanks for joining me again. I've walked up to Sharrah Pools on the River Dart, and what I'm hoping to do is photograph some of the movement in the water today. It's been raining quite a bit, river levels are really high, and also we've got some lovely autumn colours. I've walked up to a spot that's taken me about 45 minutes to an hour, and I was hoping to photograph one of the trees that's sat on an island in the middle of the river, but unfortunately someone's beaten me to it and is sitting there meditating, so I'm not going to upset them by getting in their frame, if you like. Anyway, I can't photograph that, so what I'm going to start with are some of these swirling patterns in the pool itself. Let me show you what I mean. Well, just as I'd given up hope and was about to pack up, the chap that was meditating here decided to give up his spot, so I've made it down to this tree. It's quite a difficult spot to get to, and as you can see the water's moving very fast here, so having to be very careful, and I'm going to have to just hand hold this little pocket too. Let me show you the setup just as some lovely light comes out. So there's the photograph I want to get. You've got some trees on an island just in the middle of this raging torrent coming down the River Dart, and now there's a little bit of light coming as well. All I've got to do is get the photo sharp and experiment with the shutter speed to get the best out of that water. I might do some long exposures up to 2 seconds, and I might also just freeze all that action. So at the moment I'm on ISO 50 f13 and I'm at 0.4 of a second at the moment, but that's going to change. Well, it looks as though half a second is probably the best shutter speed for this speed of water. You can still see a little bit of texture, some lines in the water, where if I go any slower it just all becomes a big white mush. And even in the video itself you can see all that movement in the water. But I thought I'd start with just showing you the frozen image. This is at 1/1000th of a second shutter speed, but to get that the ISO is quite high at 2500 and the aperture's quite open at 4.5, which doesn't make for the sharpest of images. But as a comparison, that's what I wanted to do. So the half a second I said, shutter speed, this is what it looks like. The water is nicely blurred, but you can still see those lines and all the movement, really nice. And with that shutter speed I've managed a aperture of f13, so good depths of field, and the ISO's all the way down at 50, so no problem with any noise in the image. Well, I've just moved a little closer to this tree. Well, I'll try a different approach with the water running past it. I'm going to try 2 shots. I'm going to try and get the whole scene in, and then I might zoom in a little just to see if I can make a panorama shot just of the lower branches and the water. So let me show you the settings in the camera. I've put a circular polariser on just to cut down some of the reflections in the water, and also it's been raining quite a bit, so there's a lot of reflection on the leaves on the tree. So by using the polariser you bring out the colours a little bit more, cut down on the glare. So I'm at ISO 50. I'm trying a 2-second exposure just to blur the water out quite a bit, and it's moving quite fast. And to get the right exposure on, push the aperture down to f16, which I'm hoping will still be quite sharp. A few kayakers going past now as well. Great day for them. Yeah, so maybe I should have set myself up taking photographs of the kayakers and selling prints to them. But never mind. So this is the wider shot, and as you can see I'm making a feature of the tree, and the shutter speed this time was at 1 second, so as you can see the water is much more blurred, but again a low ISO and a good aperture, f11, ISO 50, so a nice sharp image. And these letterbox type shots I'm really starting to enjoy trying to take. It took me a long time to get the composition right on this photo. Just getting enough of the tree in at the top, making sure the water was flowing through the image and there was nothing at the edges. So back to a ½ second shutter speed makes that water look really good. So what I thought I might do is just try some long exposure shots of the water here. As you can see, there's some little whirlpools created by the waterfall just further upstream. Not sure how that's going to come out, but let's give it a go. So the water was really only moving in one direction downstream, so as you can see all it was doing was creating these streaks as I was trying the longer exposures, so not something that really worked. So I went back to a faster shutter speed and again this letterbox format, and I quite like the leaves in the top of the frame and then all the bubbles framed at the bottom. Well, that was a bit wild standing down by the river, so I think I'm going to make my way back along the path back to Newbridge, where I've left the car, and through the forest here. Just make out some lovely light coming through the trees here. So I'm going to keep the camera ready, take some handheld shots as I go, and just stop with the tripod if I see something special. So I actually had the camera set on my sports mode, which is 1/1000th of a second, auto ISO and a really shallow depths of field, but does allow me just to pick the camera up and shoot at anything I like. And fortunately this is quite a good image as a result. I will just stop and show you this unnamed waterfall that's along the path. Usually quite a trickle coming through here, but as you can see, it makes quite a good waterfall when there's been a bit of rain. I have taken photographs here before. I'm not going to stop today because I think I've just done too much water today. We're going to go into the forest and where it's a little bit more tranquil. Yes, as you can see, lots of water coming down here today. But I'm not going to waste my time with this one today. Actually makes just a good bit of film. Let's go into the forest before the sun gets too high and it gets too difficult to take some good shots. So that's a bit more peaceful in the middle of the forest. It's so wet, it's created a lot of these pools of standing water. A few drips just splashing in the pools, but with these autumn colours, some lovely reflections. Well, I don't know if I can make a photograph of this, but I will give it a go. Some lovely reflections in the water and some lovely colours. Well, it was very dark, and of course I could have used a tripod, slowed the shutter speed down, but there was some movement in the leaves, so that really wouldn't have helped. So what I did was hand hold the shot, put the shutter speed at 1/100th of a second, but that meant the ISO had to go up. In this case it was 6400. So if you look really closely, there's a little bit of noise in the image. But never mind, what I did was push the clarity down in post-processing, which made both of these images look really painterly, if you like. Nice dappled colours, very subtle. With a little bit of a vignette on this, it really leads your eye into the centre of this shot. And I really like the very thin tree reflected in the water with those lovely bronze leaves this time of year. Really happy with these, and a bit of a surprise. So it's got very bright now, but that has allowed me to look for other things. So there's a fallen log here with lots of toadstools and mushrooms growing on it. Some have been spoilt, but there's still some that are almost perfect. So let me show you what I'm doing. This pair of toadstools growing out of this log look really good. There are some other groups which I might try. As you can see, there's quite a few. So ideally I need a bit of light on this. So I'm going to try using my phone just to use the flashlight to light the underside of these two and see how we get on. Well, I won't lie, this is the first time I've really tried to take photographs of these fungi, so really learning. So I put it on ISO 50. I'm at f11, trying to get a depth of field, but of course I'm zoomed in a little bit, so it's going to be very shallow. I'm going to have to focus stack this. So I've got the circular polarizer on just to cut down some of the glare. I'm going to focus in on this first mushroom, take the shot, then I'm going to focus in on the stem below, and basically working my way back through the shot. Let's move over to the next mushroom. I'm going to move up to the stem on that. And then lastly, let's move up to this last cap. Get that in focus too. Okay, now I'm going to try it with the flashlight. So yeah, I've just turned the flashlight on the phone. I'm just going to hold it underneath, but I'm going to need two hands for this. Well, as a first attempt, I'm quite happy with this. This is, in the end, 3 photographs blended together to get a sharp focus just on the 2 toadstools. Wasn't worried about the background, and as a first attempt I'm quite pleased with this. But as you can see, there were lots of other shots to be had. There was a almost mushroom city along this log. Really like what this looks like. Some Disney film this looks like. You expect some fairies to come peeking out from behind the mushrooms. So I just lined up this little bunch, and again, this is 3 different shots focus stacked together, focusing on the stems and the different caps in the shot. Well, what a city of mushrooms that was. Could have stayed there all day just taking photos of those. But while the light's good, I've come along a little bit further, working my way back to Newbridge. And I'm sure you can see in the distance there what I'm trying to get. Path runs across this little stream between these trees with some lovely colours. Not much of a composition, but the leading line of the path and the trees hopefully will make a shot. So it's still quite dark in here, and I want a good depth of field, so f11, ISO 100 and half a second shutter speed. There's some leaves moving in the background, but I think I can get away with a half a second close up. I might try a faster shutter speed with a higher ISO just to be sure. So I started off with that half a second and ISO 100, and I think it makes quite a good portrait shot. I like the path leading you into the image up to the base of the tree in the middle of the shot. The one on the left and the colour of the leaves on the right just frame it nicely. So with this one I did speed the shutter up a little bit. This is an 1/8 of a second and an ISO 800, so much darker than the previous shot, but you can see all the light coming in from behind and the silhouette of the trees with the light behind and the tracks in this path leading you in look quite nice. But again, I thought the panoramic letterbox shot worked much better. I'm really liking all the silhouetted trees and the dark patch on the left, and your eye is forced maybe from that along the path and into the distance, sort of middle right. The colours are nice, and I'd happily have this on my own wall. Well, I don't know how well you can hear me, but I've been desperate to get a letterbox shot of the canopy with some branches and maybe some straight trees. I think you know what I mean. Anyway, I've stopped a couple of times, but this time I think I'm going to take a photograph. And yes, another letterbox shot, and I was starting to experiment a bit more now. But again, I like the silhouetted trunks of the trees, and these autumn colours are really coming through with this, all backlit, giving some nice colours. Again, your eye is sort of pulled backwards and forwards through the shot, seeing more detail. And then lastly, zooming in on some of the trunks. This one had a quite high ISO and is quite noisy, so I did take the clarity down in post-processing, but this shot is all about the colours and those silhouetted tree trunks. Those two really strong ones really push your eye into the tree in the background. Well, it's been a very nice morning, some lovely light, and as I'm sure you can see, lovely colours now in the trees. But I think I'm going to call it a day. Still got a little way to walk back to the car, so I'm going to keep the camera ready just in case. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, and hopefully I'll see you all again next week. But for now, cheerio.